everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered Perspectives. I'm Tara.
I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Leslie.
And we are excited to get into today's topic. It was inspired by our discussion last week. As we talked about the essential tests and issues we face as we age, it got us thinking about self-care. It's a term that we hear a lot these days, but what does it really mean? And why does it sometimes feel like taking care of ourselves is an indulgence rather than a necessity? Today, we're going to unpack the idea of self-care, what it is, why it's important, and how we can all incorporate it into our lives, no matter how busy we get. So sit back, relax, and let's explore the world of self-care together. Trust me, it's not just about bubble baths and spa days, although those can be nice too. So let's see where it takes us. This is Unfiltered Perspectives, where real talk leads to real growth and every perspective is valued.
Thank you so much, Tara, for leading us into a great topic, a very important topic about self-care, what it means to each one of us and what it is we do, for ourselves. It's not selfish, it's self-care. Let's start with you, Kimberly. What do you think of when you think of self-care, and what is it that you do for yourself?
What is it that I do for myself? I always, whenever this question comes up, I always say drink water, because that may probably be the easiest and most consistent thing that I can do, but I don't always do it. And I'm often looking for self-care that doesn't cost much or doesn't cost anything. So I try to do the basics: sleep and drink water. I also exercise. I walk and I go to the Y. Every once in a while, I'll get a massage.
It's interesting because as much as we're talking about self-care and I talk about it as it pertains to other people, I probably don't, indulge. I don't take care of myself probably as much as I should between lifing, and stresses and things that push us to need that self-care. I'm just not doing it. And I'm listening to you, Kimberly, saying you work out and you go to the Y and things of that nature. And the intent is always there, but the motivation isn't, because something's always stressing me, which is more of a reason for me to take that time out that I don't take out. Although, like I said, don't just talk the talk, right? I need to do better for myself.
Like, don't just talk about it, be about it.
Yeah, be about it. Yeah, it's important. It's necessary. What about you, Tara?
When I think about self-care, when I think about self-care for myself, I think about it on several different categories. There's the physical self-care. There's things I do for my physical body. There are things that I do for my mental health. There are things that I do for my spiritual health and my spiritual being. So speaking of my physical health, water is, like Kim mentioned, water. I drink water all day long. I guzzle this stuff. But that also, a lot of times, I'm in a period right now where I'm not really doing it, but I exercise. I like to I don't sleep the way that I don't get the hours of sleep that I know that I should get, because I feel like there's so much more that I can get done at bedtime than I can get done during the day. I try to eat healthily. As far as my mental well-being, I like to meditate. I like to pray. Shocker. I like to just spend time just in quiet. A lot of times also, I like to just take time to decompress. And for me, that means reading. When I'm driving, it calms me and it makes me feel better to listen to music. It's Christian music, but it's not like, I can't describe what it's not. It's more like Christian rock kind of stuff. It's stuff that it's on the radio, put it that way. It's on the radio, but I like to listen to stuff like that. Yeah, I think that should be enough to get us started.
You think?
Oh.
What is the reason for self-care? What do you find the reason for self-care? Maybe it pertains to mental health, because I find that sometimes you need that self-care just to kind of pull you away from whatever stresses, whatever's going on in the moment, just to kind of get a breather and to just take a break, right? But sometimes when those things are so overwhelming for you, you can't get the self-care. So then how do you balance the two? How do you make the time? How do you do that?
So I think you're exactly right. so often when we get busy or stressed or overwhelmed, these self-care things are the first to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a mistake. I think they should really be, if we can manage it, the last to go. And I think of it a little bit the way, that saying about when you're on the airplane to put on your own face mask before you try to put on the mask
Right.
for somebody
Mhm.
else.
Yes.
We're running around trying to fix everything else, trying to save everybody else, trying to be for everybody else. And we cannot, however much we think we cannot show up fully for other people unless we have already shown up fully for ourselves.
Sometimes it's so much easier, and this is not me patting myself on the back, but if I'm able to help someone, I can and I will. And sometimes that pulls me away from my own stuff. So when you say, you got to be able to help yourself before you can help someone else, I do agree. And at the same time, helping someone else just kind of pulls me away from my stuff for a minute. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that's just avoidance actually. But it's not self-care, but it's something that gets me away from my own stuff, for the moment. So yes, you should be able to, or you should, take care of your needs first so that you can 100% show up for the next person. But we don't always do that.
We don't always do that. You said it pulls you away from your own stuff. And a lot of times also people don't do it because they feel guilty about prioritizing their selves over somebody else. And I think it's a hard line to say that you should put your own self first, but you should put yourself in there somewhere. Even if you feel like you can't put yourself first, you should find time to take care of yourself, because if you don't, you're going to experience burnout. You're not going to be able to, like Kimberly said, give yourself fully, or even probably in the way that, or to the degree that you want to, because you won't have those reserves in yourself to be able to do that. And sometimes the way to make that happen is to schedule time for yourself. You know how people, they have their calendars and they write in, oh, I have an appointment here, I have an appointment there, I have to do this, I have to do that, and they put it on their calendar. Make an appointment with yourself. That's a surefire way to make sure you're getting in that me time, that time you need to reflect and take care of yourself. And it doesn't have to be an hour. It can be 10 minutes, it can be 15 minutes, just enough to refresh you. Put yourself on the calendar. Why not? Take a few extra minutes in the bathroom and, with the door locked. This is mom time. This is me time. This is dad time. I love you, but right now, I love me too. That's important. You don't have to say that, but you can feel that. You can feel that.
Yeah.
How about physical health? Like what does that mean to you as far as self-care?
Immediately when we talk about self-care, I think I automatically went to things that you do physically, like Kim said, going to the gym, or you go to the spa, you work out, you walk, whatever your exercise is. I always think of self-care, get a massage, those types of things when you think about physically. Mentally, maybe reading, maybe, I guess a spa and massage could, that could fall under mental self-care as well. But I automatically think of something to go out and do, even if it's shopping. Sometimes shopping helps, so I always think of it in a physical sense.
How about things like getting yourself checked out, like going for your regular appointments, as far as like health examinations, dental care?
Yeah, I that's definitely would fall under the category of self-care. We would think and hope that that's something that we don't have to take time for, that that's something that just comes naturally and regularly for people, but it doesn't. It doesn't. And we have to be certain that we're taking the time out to do those things on a regular basis.
Yeah. So I know like it's recommended that when women reach a certain age, they have certain exams, like, the gynecological exams, you get mammograms on a regular basis. I think at the age that I know that the age I am now, I'm probably also earlier, the recommendation is for yearly exams. Men have to take care of their health too, as far as prostate exams and things of that nature, dental exams every 6 months or so. And I know that it's recommended that people get physical exams depending on their health, but if they're relatively healthy, like on a yearly basis. But I don't always do that because sometimes I'm in, and this should not be the case. You shouldn't let like embarrassment or thinking that you're not doing your, living your life in the right way stop you from going to your doctor to get an exam.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is for a long time, I'm more regular about it now, but there have been a period of time, like spanning years, where I wasn't going to the doctor because I'm like, oh, the doctor's going to yell at me because or my doctor's going to make me feel bad about myself because I gain weight, or my doctor's going to make me feel bad about myself because my blood work is not going to be right the way, the way it should be. Or I was afraid. I still do get really bad headaches, but for a while they were really bad. And I was afraid, and this is ironic and probably stupid, but I was afraid to go to the doctor to get that checked out because I'm like, oh my God, they're going to tell me I have a brain tumor. And, I was just like, do you remember that?
That's not stupid at all.
But you can't, I mean, I've learned that you really have to take care of yourself. You can't let things like that scare you away from going. Because when I went and I got examined, they're like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're fine.
Mhm.
So, but I wasted all that time for no reason, just being afraid of what they were going to tell me. Whereas even if there was something bad, it would probably be something that we could handle better than me just sitting there in the dark, worrying about it.
Mhm.
So that, in addition to like the physical aspect, also had weighed on me mentally as well, because I'm sitting there thinking that there's something seriously wrong with me and worrying about it when all I had to do was do what I
Mhm.
should have been doing in the first place.
Mhm. Mhm.
Embarrassing and silly, but hey.
So, and I always think more information is less, right? So I definitely understand this idea. Oh, I don't want to go because if they tell me something bad, I won't know how to address it, or I know that I won't want to address it. But I think knowing, and once you know whatever, you can make a decision to do X or to do Y or to do nothing. When you don't know, you don't have those options to make a decision on treatment or not.
And then for me, I got tired of going to the doctor because there was always something wrong.
Mm.
I'm on the opposite end of that. It's like you keep pushing these meds and pushing these meds. What are you actually treating? What are you treating? Tara, I know you said you have the headaches, but my migraines have been for many, 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 many years. I've been through every medication, and they tell you that, well, it's stress or it's your diet or it's your this or it's your that. Really, you don't know what it is. And you keep changing these medications. And then, this medication causes that problem. And then, so you guys go because you don't go because you don't want to hear what it might be. I don't go because I'm tired of hearing that it's this, 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 and this. And some of the things that I deal with they're medicated to manage it, but it's not going away. So
Yeah, I don't actually not go because I don't want to hear. It's if I don't go nowadays, it is because I am busy and live in a place that's pretty remote. And so going to the doctor can be an ordeal. So I have a major checkup that I have rescheduled twice and definitely going on Friday.
and I will be calling you on Friday to make sure.
But it can be a full day affair. It can take a long time to find a doctor who's in my area, who takes my insurance, and then in my area takes my insurance, and then also doesn't make me feel bad about myself. Can I say? I'm just gonna say. So when I moved out here to Long Island in 2015, I had just been diagnosed with breast cancer. And so now I'm moving to a new place that is remote and I'm trying to find doctors to treat this. And I'm in the office of basically the only breast surgeon out here. And she's sort of running through what to expect and what my options are. And again, I'm like very new in this area and very new in this job and completely overwhelmed. And so I started to cry, not because I thought like I was going to die, just like the overwhelm. And she just sort of rolled her eyes and asked in a very snippy way, "What are you crying for?"
No.
Last time I saw that woman. And so even if you sort of find somebody and they take insurance and you can get there, I know pickings can be slim, but you do not have to go to a person who makes you feel bad about yourself.
Absolutely not.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely not.
I told you guys I'm all for going to therapy. I just had well, I had more than one bad experience now that I think about it. But I had a woman who she ran her own office. It was just her and her, she took care of appointments, billing, she did everything. And we sat down to talk. And this might have been, I feel like it was the second visit. It may have been the first, but she wanted to know before we get started something. I don't know how she got into my finances, but it led to her asking me, let me know now if you can pay for this visit.
Oh.
Well, first of all,
Well,
I
I
had,
can, but I won't for you. Bye.
like, if you're running the office, you know that my insurance covered it and I had no copay. And why is that something that we're discussing during my session and not, what I'm there for? That definitely was my last visit. That was my last visit.
I bet.
Um, so, that's the other thing, like you said, making you feel bad. I was trying to figure out where I was going with that, but that making you feel bad, you got to watch bedside manner, office manner, tones, all that stuff when you're dealing with people's health, especially mental health, because I've had two experiences that have made me not want to return to, an
Mhm.
office. And that is part of your self-care.
Yeah.
It is.
And I think it can be challenging. And I think to advocate for yourself, I think it can be particularly challenging for women or people of color to advocate for ourselves because of this relationship to authority, where I will speak for my own self. I'm sort of raised and grown up to respect authority. And so you're making a face.
No, I agree. I hear you. I'll say it afterwards. Or
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I have no problem speaking up for myself or sticking up for myself. And luckily, I hesitate to talk about other people's things, but I will say that Matthew, from a very young age, has been able to speak to his doctors on his own behalf. And that's something I have been so proud of him about. He has always been an advocate for himself as far as his education and as far as his healthcare is concerned. So
Mm-hmm.
it's important to be comfortable being your own cheerleader. It's important to be comfortable being able to talk about what you need and what you want with the people who are there to care for you. And if you don't have that level of comfort, then there are many other people probably in that same building on that same block that will be able to give you what you need with the respect that you deserve. So you're paying them. You're paying them. They work for you. And so that's important to remember. And it's important to teach our children the same thing. Yes, respect authority, but demand respect for yourself.
Yeah. And we're talking about self care, but in this regard, I also want to say great to be able to advocate for yourself. And when you can't, we should enlist. I'm trying to not do the shoulding, but enlist somebody who can, even if it's not in the moment. There was a meme or something a few weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago, about, Black people on the phone or recording or something in the doctor's office. And it was sort of described in a disparaging way. But, one of the ways that you advocate for yourself is to have somebody with you physically if you can, or record what's being said. So often in the moment, if I'm getting instructions or unexpected information, it's a lot. And if I don't write it down, I have no idea by the time I get home what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that recording is important and because it allows you to have a record and that's
Mm-hmm.
good for you and also to hold the other person accountable.
This
Yeah.
is probably getting off topic a little bit, but I've never had anyone to advocate for me or go into the doctor's office with me or whatever. But I like the idea, Kim, of what you said of recording, because I've had people say to me, and it angers me, you're too young to have all this wrong with you, or you don't look like you're sick, or I'm making it up. I mean, people do. I don't make up being sick or being in pain. And so there was not those people in place to say, hey, let me go to this visit with you, or let me
Mm-hmm.
hear saying, or you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I do like the idea of, recording it for yourself, not to prove it to anyone, you know what I mean? But I've struggled with there's no way all of that's going on. And
Right.
so
Wow.
most things now I've learned to just, kind of keep to myself.
So talked about the regular checkups. We talked about all the tests that people should have done and why it's important because, and also we talked about knowing your family's medical history, which is also, I think, a part of self-care to know these things so that you can tell your doctors so that you know for yourself. You could pass that information down onto your children because they need to know it as well, because it helps your healthcare team know what to look for in you.
One of the things that I think we started to talk about last week is the importance of talking about your health and talking about family health and family history. Often, sometimes, families don't talk about illnesses or diseases. It used to be that people didn't talk about cancer, right? It was whispered cancer or the big C,
The big
or people
C.
would talk about it in euphemisms. And so when you don't talk about these family histories, we aren't able to give enough good, correct information for our own treatment and for our own prevention. Often, when I'm filling out forms now, or especially when I was being treated 10 years ago, I kept being asked about family history, and I have no idea because we just didn't talk about that.
All right. So even as far as my own history as a child, there were a lot of things I didn't know. I didn't know that as a baby, I was anemic. I didn't know that I had that condition my entire life. So when, as an adult, I realized I had that condition, I thought it was because, I wasn't eating enough with this, or I wasn't doing enough of that, or because my flow was so heavy. So I was losing a lot of, that kind of thing. I say that to say, let your children know what's going on in their lives, what their own history is. It could save a lot of worry and a lot of heartache, unnecessary testing, also unnecessary things during the course of a person's life. I remember for years, I was getting my eyes checked for glaucoma because I thought that my father, had a history of glaucoma. No, he just said that as a passing thing once or twice for something else, but I took it as proof. And so I was paying for testing every 6 months for a condition that I didn't even have or need.
Wow. And that money sure could have gone to something else. So, and if we think that people are reluctant to talk about our physical health, even more reluctant to talk about mental health and family histories of mental health.
Absolutely.
Yes. Especially, I think, in African American families, there's such a stigma attached to mental health conditions. I'll leave it at that.
And then, especially with, men, I am not challenged with saying that I myself deal with mental health issues. And it's only been very recent, less than a year, Tara, that I've discussed it very freely. I don't go around broadcasting it. There's no sign on my side of my car, but it's a conversation that I freely have. And, we were reluctant because of judgment, of criticism. And so therefore, when it comes to self-care as it pertains to your mental health, you're not going to expose yourself. So you're not going to get the help.
Right.
And that affects not only you, it affects your relationships with your partners, your siblings, your children, your work. It affects every aspect of your life. So mental health care is extremely important. But even aside from mental health issues or conditions, however you want to label it, there is a need for us to, I guess, deal with prevention, maybe, I guess you could call it, just to make sure that you are decompressing, that you are not bottling things up or holding things in, and that you have a means of release and a means of relief before things get to a point where you feel like you just can't take it anymore. Whether that means having someone that you can talk to, if it means having a journaling practice where you can write things out, if it means engaging in hobbies, that allow you to escape from your realities for a little while, as it means to get some of the pressure off before there's a big
And we talked about this maybe within our first 3 episodes, I think it was, the ability to be able to help someone through some of the same things that you're going through. And I say that because I try to help. I am a mental health first aider, however you want to say it, for youth and adults. But I also struggle with my own concerns. But it doesn't mean that I'm not capable of helping someone else or if you're going through something that you're not capable of helping someone else. Because again, we tend to run to someone else's aid before we make our own self-care a priority. We're gonna do that. I don't know. It's not right or wrong. It's not bad. It's not, it is what it is for each one of us. Tara and I have spoken before on a station about mental health. And I think it was surprising that the host mentioned that they were learning and other people were getting information that they weren't aware of. And it's surprising to me still how many people are not aware of all that is involved when you talk about your mental health and self-care. It's a conversation that can go on forever.
Yeah, I like the way you started us, Tara, sort of separating physical care, mental care, and spiritual care. And they're not so discrete, right? That things don't overlap. Often something that is serving in one area is serving in another, but that's because we are complex people, complex beings that want to be whole. So
another thing that I wanted to point out that is an important part of self-care is setting boundaries. And by that, I mean, for some people, saying no is a hardship, but when you don't say no, so many things pile up on you and so many people expect things from you that sometimes you might lose yourself in doing for others that you feel like you don't have time to do for yourself, or to take time for yourself, to give yourself the breathing space that you need in order to just refill your own cup.
yes, I'm laughing because when you were talking about boundaries, I was thinking, oh, my favorite thing are boundaries. Let's talk about boundaries. I am the queen of no, it's a complete sentence, period.
Yeah.
I love that.
And also it's not even just about saying no. Sometimes there are some people who are the folks that when somebody needs something, whether it's an ear, whether it's anything, they're the person that other people reach out to. And it can be overwhelming a lot of times. And they may not have the courage, or they might not even just have the heart to say, I can't handle your thing right now because I have my own things going on. Or even if it's not that I have my own things going on, but sometimes I don't want to hear about your thing right now. I want to watch TV. I'm sorry. I don't want to answer your call right now because I'm spending time with my husband or my son, or I want to play this board game, or I just want to finish this chapter of this book, or I just don't want to talk to you right now because when I talk to you, it causes me anxiety. It causes my heart to race. It causes my head to hurt. It causes this feeling of me being enclosed or trapped in a closet and I can't escape because I can't say no to you.
Ooh, that's a lot.
I can't say no to you because if I say no to you, then who are you going? Who do you have to turn to?
Now, she may not admit it, but I'm going to say it because I reach out to Tara a lot, and Tara knows I feel like she's had those moments with me and she didn't say anything. She did not say anything, whether it was overwhelmed or, you know what, Aunt Leslie, I don't feel like you're crap today, or, just I feel like she hasn't said it. I'm not asking her, so I'm going to save her. But in the past few months, I hope I've been effective in I don't reach out as much.
You do not reach out as much. You do not reach out as much. And you didn't ask. And so I won't say one way or the other. But even if my answer to you is no, I'm not talking about you. You're not the only person in my world, in my sphere. So if it's not one person, the piling on of person after person, like talking to this person, and after a while it can add up and there's like no space. You feel like there's no space for yourself in your own life.
So I'm gonna play the therapist. So what I hear you saying is
set boundaries.
So are you saying, and I'm okay, I can take a punch. It may not have necessarily been me per se, but just collectively how you've been available for people became overwhelming.
Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
Sometimes, yes. But that doesn't mean that I am not, will not be willing to be there when you need me.
Oh, but see, I know that. You know what I mean? I know that. She's not going to not make herself available. But not just with Tara, I have just been in a place of just kind of, listen, I can be real, sometimes tired of hearing my own stuff. I don't say some of the things anymore. Like, turn the page, close the book. Like, I'm just over talking about it. So if I'm over it, they've definitely got to be over it. Whatever it is, a relationship, finances, a teenager, work, whatever it is, I just try to kind of pull back a little bit. And, I'm just a little bit more, keep it to myself and figure it out, let it work itself out, pray about it, cry about it, hit somebody. I don't know, whatever.
Pray about it.
Where real talk leads to real growth. But can I say, I think I heard you say or imply that sometimes setting boundaries requires heart or courage, right? That you don't have the heart, so that you may not have the heart or the courage to set boundaries. I think boundaries require both of those things. It can also though require skill or discipline or reflection, right? It's not just about heart or courage. And so it is a skill that we can practice and develop. There are tools that we can use to help us set boundaries. And also, so here's where it might be uncomfortable. There also is some self-reflection that can help us set some boundaries. So, for example, in the work that I do, I am convinced that everybody who asks me a question believes that they are the only person asking me a question. Everybody who asks me to do something believe that they are the only person asking me to do something. There are 70 other people asking me to do something. I don't have time to do all of these things in all of the ways that you all want me to do it. And so I have learned to be really clear about when I'm working and when I'm not, to communicate that clearly, and then really to force myself to not be responding when I say that I'm not working. I'm not always successful at that. And so then I have to think about my own self-reflection on why not? Because I will admit to myself, sometimes I say yes to more things than I ought to say yes to. I involve myself in more things than I ought to involve myself in because I want to feel needed. I am getting something out of putting myself in these situations. That may not be the case for everybody who overextends. But I have to ask myself, when I'm overextending, what about this is serving me? What is this serving in me, this overextending?
Deep stuff.
Deep stuff.
But, Tara, when you talk about, being available, and sometimes you just get overwhelmed. And I think that you're an amazing listener and all of that. But that's the difference between you and someone that's trained to do it, because it won't affect them the same way because they're trained or gifted in that area. When we talk about, gifts and spiritual gifts, even you tend to have a larger capacity, I guess, for certain things where they may not get as overwhelmed or needing that space as quickly as you may need because they are equipped, I would say equipped differently than you are versus a professional. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, not to say you're not built for it, but it takes a whole another professional level of training and understanding to not feel like, listen, it's too many y'all, too much at one time. I need a break. So
I do think, though, that is kind of where, so part of like for myself, part of what prepares me to be able to set boundaries, but also to be able to like jump into the fray or open myself up so all of everybody else's stuff is the self-care. And there's this idea, I heard you say, Tara, really briefly, something about filling our cup, maybe something. But so this is like idea that we want to be serving from our saucer, not our cup. So imagine, right, that your cup is your personal resources. If you keep pouring out your resources from your cup, you're going to run out. But if your cup is overflowing, what we want is for our cup to be overflowing so that we're not depleting our cup. We're just serving from the saucer.
That idea. I like that imagery.
Tara, I feel like it's time for a scripture.
Oh, I have something to add in the scripture realm as well.
Awesome.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. So I actually have two. The first one I have is 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 19 and 20, which says, "Or do you not know that your body is temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body." And the second one is 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 8, which says, "For while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come." It tells us that to view our bodies as precious and sacred. And I think that it motivates us to, when we do it that way, to take better care of them, not just for our own sake, but as a way of honoring something, something greater. And 1 Timothy, it encourages a more balanced approach so that we are integrating both our physical health with our spiritual and our, I guess, moral growth, perhaps. And it's that taking care of our bodies through exercise and healthy habits like meditating, eating nutritiously, all that stuff. It's all valuable, but nurturing our spirit, it holds an eternal significance. Oh, Kim, what you got?
When we were talking earlier about self-care before care for others, it reminded me of this Maya Angelou quote. So I was like scrambling furiously to find it. She writes, "I don't trust people who don't love themselves and tell me I love you." There is an African saying, which is, "Be careful when a naked person offers you a shirt," which I love.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How you going to tell me you love me when you don't even love yourself? How you going to try to take care of me when you can't even take care of yourself?
Well, it's about perspective. Okay. And my unfiltered perspective is that bunch of oops, I almost said it. Because the fact that I am naked, I don't know that I like this quote very much.
Why this person be naked because they took off that shirt to help clothe you, to cover you?
It's one thing to have somebody take the shirt off their back to give to you. But if you walking around with the shirt and you're not wearing it, what's wrong with it?
But we don't know why he's naked or she's naked. Mm-hmm. So it's perspective. Very, very vulnerable, and say, Tara, when I tell you that I love you, do you believe me?
Yes.
There was a time when I didn't love myself. So I absolutely 100% disagree with that quote.
She disagreeing with it.
With who?
You disagree with Maya.
I am.
Nobody disagrees with Maya.
I am indeed. That doesn't work for me. That doesn't fly well with me. So
Wow. Mm-hmm. But I do understand. It doesn't fly on Leslie, and I understand her perspective, but I do understand where both of those things are coming from.
I know. I get it, but just, I understand it.
But you don't agree with it.
I don't. Yeah, I don't.
And that's fine, because you know what? Here, every perspective is valued.
Not that one. No, just kidding.
Well, it's valued by some of us.
Yeah. No. That's a no for me. That's a hard no.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a hard no for Leslie, but I understand it, and it clearly resonated with Kimberly. So we all have our own views.
Listeners, email us, talk to us in the comment. Let us know what you think about that quote. I want to know. I want to hear from you guys.
We have a call to action there.
Yeah.
Oh, I have another call to action too, guys. How about every second and fourth Sunday of every month, you tune into Raw Relationships Are Work, which is my new podcast that will be discussing relationships, whether they be partner relationships, family dynamics, work relationships. They're all work. And you know what? They're worth it.
I love it. I'm excited. Congratulations on this podcast. I cannot wait to listen in on that. I'm excited.
How can people find your podcast?
It'll be available on the same platforms that you find Unfiltered Perspectives.
That is awesome. And we will share it on the Unfiltered Perspectives page as well.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So thank you for joining us for today's episode on self-care. We've explored what self-care truly means, why it's essential for our well-being, and how we can integrate it into our daily lives despite the hurdles. Remember, self-care is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It's about taking those moments to ensure we're physically, mentally, and emotionally healthy, whether it's scheduling that long overdue doctor's appointment, taking a few minutes each day for mindfulness or meditation, a walk on the beach to snap the sunrise, or simply saying no to avoid burnout. Self-care is vital. I hope you found some practical tips and a bit of inspiration to start prioritizing your own self-care. Thank you for tuning in to Unfiltered Perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with friends who might need a little reminder about the importance of self-care. And be sure to look for a new episode every Thursday morning.
Find us on Facebook and YouTube at Unfiltered Perspectives and Instagram at Unfiltered Perspectives IG. We'd love to hear from you, especially around this Maya wisdom. If you have a question or comment that you'd like for us to address on the podcast, send your questions to unfilteredperspectives@outlook.com and let us know if you'd like us to use your name.
Yes, let us know what you think about that Maya quote. I am waiting to hear from you. Also, again, look forward to Relationships Are Work. It'll be posted on the Unfiltered Perspectives page. So keep up with that and let us know some of the suggestions you may have or what you may do in terms of self-care. We would love to hear from you. So again, take care and we will meet you back here next time.
I'm Tara.
I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Leslie. Bye-bye.